Hello and welcome to a special Around the Nation podcast here from Salem Stadium in Salem, Virginia, where I'm Pat Coleman.
And I'm Keith McMillan.
And we are getting ready for Stagg Bowl 40 as teams are here. Teams have had their final practice here on the field. And Keith, I think one of the big questions, not too many people are saying it around here, but I know the rest of the D3 universe is talking about it. Does St. Thomas have a chance on Saturday? And I would say they do. Yeah,
there is a scenario here where St. Thomas has a chance, and what it involves really is things that aren't flashy and maybe aren't readily visible to the naked eye, or because St. Thomas doesn't have the star power that it had last season, and it doesn't have really flashy skill players. But the strength of this team is along the offensive line and on defense. They haven't let people run the ball on them all season, and I think that's the key for them tomorrow is to make Mount Union one-dimensional. And then when they do make Mount Union one-dimensional, or if they do, they have to be able to defend Junior Collins and the rest of those Mount Union wide receivers.
Yeah, between Collins, Chris Denton, Julius Moore, those are three guys who can stretch the field. St. Thomas secondary is going to be obviously mightily tested. You talked about containing the Mount Union run game. Obviously Mount Union has a quarterback that can run the ball as well, so it's not just enough to contain the running back situation. But on the opposite side, St. Thomas at least goes against Matt O'Connell, who is Kevin Burke-like. He's maybe not quite as skilled as Kevin Burke, but they see mobile quarterbacks on a regular basis, obviously.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think for St. Thomas, the big question for them is how are they going to score points? Because they try to establish the run, but Mount Union has really what's been an outstanding defense all season as well, and so really for them, they have to establish, I think, a consistent run game. You have to be able to get first downs and settle down a little bit. And one of the big factors is when you're the first. This is not only their first Stagg Bowl, but the first time playing against Mount Union, and that's a big deal. Just to be comfortable in what you do in your own offense, and to try to establish that over the course of the game. A big play early for St. Thomas would certainly help, but if they can't get that, they really need to establish that consistency. And
St. Thomas has had the big plays early in each of the last two games, both against Hobart in the quarterfinals and against Wisconsin-Oshkosh in the semifinals. You can see behind us here one of the new additions to Salem Stadium this year. It's a much larger Jumbotron. They're testing it out right now, replacing the little canvas thing that used to be on the truck. It's going to look really nice. Every year it seems like there's something different here at the stadium.
Yeah, and there's also something different when a team gets to a Stagg Bowl that's different from the course of the regular season. Playing on TV makes the game choppier than a D3 team is normally used to, because they're not used to the TV timeouts, although each team got experience with that last week because the semifinals were on ESPN3 and ESPNU. So there's the Jumbotron, and then there's instant replay, which actually is used during the game. College rules, not NFL rules, so if you're familiar with it from watching on Sundays, the replay rule is a little bit different, but that's something that teams don't have the chance to use during the season, right, to challenge. And we haven't seen it used very often at the behest of the coaches, but we do see the automatic replays have an effect on the Stagg Bowls.
And I know Keith is an expert on this, so I'll just tee him up by saying, just because the game isn't stopped doesn't mean a play is not reviewed. They are reviewing these plays constantly, even though they may not stop the play to try to adjust something on the field.
Yeah, there's actually a team in the booth that is watching and rewatching plays. And these, in the past years, they've used the team that does Virginia Tech games, so they're familiar with the way they do these things on TV, and they won't struggle nearly as much as we'll struggle to adjust from having watched D3 games all season and not being used necessarily to the media timeouts and to being able to use replay during the game.
Friday night's officiating crew will be from the Wisconsin Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. It's always from a neutral conference, so the WIAC hasn't been here in a while.
Yeah, and this is the first time in 7 seasons a WIAC team is not in the game, and so they're never allowed to use teams that would have a reason to
seen them, yeah.
Yeah, or influence the officiating. So yeah, the WIAC officials are on the board, and that's a little different, I guess, from some of the teams or the officiating crews that we've seen over the course of the years. People out there who are very familiar, have their conferences that they like and don't like. The WIAC guys tend to be pretty good, so hopefully that won't be a factor tomorrow.
And Keith, you got to talk to all 4 of those guys who were Gagliardi Trophy Final Four finalists last night. I wanted to get your take for the fan base on that.
Yeah, I thought it was a mild surprise that Scotty Williams won instead of Nate Wera, but those were the 2 guys we thought had the best chance when they narrowed it down to those Final Four, and it was really overwhelming in a way to Williams and the Williams family. I thought they were still digesting it. We got a chance to talk to them after the ceremony and off camera, and they were just as genuine as they were on camera. They were very humbled by the attention, and not just the attention that it will bring to the family and to Scotty himself, but what it does for Elmhurst football and how it represents the CCIW. And so I thought it was a nice moment. It was a great night. The ceremony has been run really well the past several seasons now. The chance for, this is just me personally, the chance to get to know all 4 guys a little bit before the award is presented is a really big deal. And then, you know, there's always the deal with the winner having to figure out how to get the 65-pound trophy home, and I know the Williams family is having it shipped this year. So.
St. Thomas is wrapping up his practice behind us as we speak. We haven't seen anything really in either of these practices that seems particularly ground-breaking or earth-shattering. You know, I think one of the nice things is that we don't have to worry about who's quarterbacking Mount Union this year like we've had the previous couple of years here.
Yeah, Kevin Burke's been the man pretty much from the start this season.
And healthy.
And that's, you know, really key for Mount Union, because they run a lot of read option. He keeps the ball on pass plays sometimes, and he's really effective running the ball. Averages over 7 yards a carry. He's made big plays with his feet as much as he has throwing the ball to Junior Collins and Chris Denton and those folks. So having him healthy and not having to deal with a situation late in the game where you have to relieve your quarterback and put Cecil Shorts in, as Mount Union had to do a couple seasons ago, or to go back and forth. You know, Matt Pilato, remember he got a start where he hadn't been.
Well, right. Yeah.
Well, he got one where he hadn't been the man all season, and then had to come and start the game, and those things. You know, that's one of the reasons why Mount Union is coming in as a major favorite this time, because they've been consistently getting better. I think even over the course of the playoffs, and now having had the challenge of having to beat Mary Hardin Baylor and having to come back in the 4th quarter of a game is one more thing that Mount Union hasn't had to do all season that now they've accomplished. And if it gets to a point tomorrow night where they have to score in the 4th quarter against St. Thomas, they'll be confident that they can do it. So
we hope to see you down here for Stagg Bowl 40. If you're not making the trip, watch the game on ESPNU, turn down the sound, listen to Keith and I call the game on d3football.com on live audio. You know, we talked about the Stone Station crew. Those are the Bridgewater College faithful who come out and do the great tailgating party every year at the Stagg Bowl for the past decade or so. They are not making the trip this year. We're sorry to hear that, but you should still come on down and you know, maybe bring a grill.
Well, and there's a lot of Mount Union folks who are familiar with making the trip, and so they've got their own tailgates set up. St. Thomas travels well, although usually within the state of Minnesota they don't have to come down to. They have not had to come down to Virginia before, and so this is a new experience. But usually, you know, teams bring a bus or several bus loads of fans down, and the tailgate will be going probably. You know, the gates open up I think 4:30 tomorrow night for a 7:05 kickoff, and they'll probably be tailgating a long time before 4:30.
Check out our predictions. We'll have our triple take predictions, not just 3 of us, but I think 7 or 8, so octuple take we'll say, for Stagg Bowl 40. We'll get everybody's predicted scores and breakdown of the game, and you can check out all the rest of the coverage heading into Stagg Bowl 40 on d3football.com. There will be one final Around the Nation podcast, so this is not us signing off for the year. We'll have one more after the game on Friday night, which we will publish Friday night for Saturday morning. But Keith, it's been another great year of football.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a final, a Stagg Bowl, as great as not only the past 7 have been, because, you know, the one thing about Whitewater's rise was that it made these Stagg Bowls very interesting, because when we came down here we didn't know for sure that Mount Union was going to win. And hopefully we'll get a game as great as last week's Mount Union game was, you know, exciting, and something that's there's some drama in the 4th quarter.
I'd like to remind you the Around the Nation podcast is sponsored by the City of Salem. Tickets are on sale. You can go to the website, or you just come on down. Come to the game. He's Keith, I'm Pat.
We'll see you.
The Minnesota guy and the Virginia guy.